welcome to the deep dive. So you've sent over some really interesting sources lately, all kind of pointing towards growth, right? Personal, professional.
Yeah, definitely seeing a theme there.
And what keeps jumping out is this gap between the promise, the quick transformation and the reality, which often feels a lot slower.
Absolutely. And that's why today we're going to dig into this one piece, week 16, the performance trap, why real growth doesn't look like a TED Talk. It has a pretty strong take on why some popular growth methods might be, well, a bit misleading.
Misleading how? Like selling something shiny that isn't quite real.
Sort of. The article uses this analogy of grooming people into a system rather than really guiding them toward genuine change.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive then is to unpack that. Based on this article, what does real sustainable growth actually look like, and why do these other approaches sometimes miss the mark?
Sounds good. Where should we start? Maybe with that idea of transformation being sold.
Yeah, let's do that. The article kicks off by critiquing this concept of transformation as a product. Almost like you can subscribe to becoming a better you.
Exactly. And it mentions this funnel that pretended to be a formula. The idea that if you just follow steps A, B, and C, boom, you're transformed.
Oh, wait. Step-by-step guides.
But the author argues it's not really a reliable formula. It's more about consuming content than actually changing. So how does that differ from, a real growth path?
Well, I think that funnel idea focuses so much on the outside stuff, the consumption. And if you're listening and you want that thorough understanding, you want to avoid just feeling buried under checklists, then you see the problem. These package deals can ironically just add more overwhelm if they don't lead to real internal shifts.
That's a great point. It's more information, not necessarily transformation.
Exactly. So the article contrasts that whole approach, the viral story, the big aha moment.
Loud stuff.
Yeah, the loud, shiny stuff with what real growth often involves. And it's less exciting sounding, honestly.
Like what?
Like saying no, like repeating the basics even when they feel boring.
Repeating what works after it stops being fun. That line really jumped out at me, too.
Right. And embracing being a beginner, which everyone wants to skip past, the article suggests real growth can look like quietness. Even boredom sometimes, not constant fireworks.
It brings back that analogy from an earlier piece, week 0, I think, about painting your bridge again.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It's that steady, continuous, maybe even mundane effort that builds something solid. It's not about the big reveal. It's about the consistent upkeep.
Which makes sense if you're after real understanding, not just a quick hit.
Definitely. Now, the author also gets personal about the dangers of trying to skip ahead, this chasing the middle idea.
The story from Brazil, right. Trying to learn the language too fast.
Yeah, pushing so hard, trying to sort of leapfrog the basics and just getting completely burned out and sick.
Oof. Been there. Maybe not in Brazil, but that feeling.
And the takeaway was powerful. Self-help that skips the beginning is just pretending in disguise. You just can't fake the foundations.
It links back to that week 1 concept they mentioned. Strong foundations, real integrity, no shortcuts. You need that base.
Totally. And then, okay, shifting gears a bit, but still related, the article brings up this really unexpected analogy, Amish barn dust.
Amish barn dust? Okay, you have to explain that one.
Yeah, it sounds weird, right? But the idea is based on observations that Amish kids raised around, barn dust, lots of different microbes tend to have fewer allergies and autoimmune issues later on.
Interesting. So exposure to the messiness actually builds strength.
That's the argument the article makes, that resilience, real strength, often comes from exposure and adaptation, not from trying to keep everything perfectly sterile or comfortable.
So it's not just about physical health, it's applying that metaphorically.
Exactly. Applying it to emotional, spiritual growth, too. This idea that we sometimes want transformation without exposure or strength without stress. The article basically says that's not how it works.
You need the stressors, the challenges like the barn dust to build capacity.
Precisely. Which ties into another week's idea, week 11. Your inputs shape your capacity, not just your information. Facing difficulty is a crucial input.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's not just about learning about resilience, it's about experiencing the things that build it.
Right, and this leads into another concept they discuss, end gaining. It comes from the Alexander technique.
Right, that's about posture and movement, isn't it? What does end gaining mean there?
It means basically rushing towards the goal, focusing so hard on the end result that you tense up, you force it, instead of paying attention to the process of getting there.
Okay. So trying too hard, essentially.
Yeah, striving before you're steady, acting before you're really aligned. And the article argues a lot of performative self-help encourages exactly that.
Pushing for the outcome without doing the groundwork.
And the article puts it pretty bluntly. The body always knows, and it always sends the bill. You create tension, you burn out.
Which connects back to, what was it, week 7? Pacing is wisdom, not weakness. Slowing down isn't failing. It's often smarter.
Exactly. Sustainable pacing.
So, given all this, the article suggests a practice. Burn the brochure. What's that about?
It's kind of a mental exercise, identifying those self-help phrases or routines or maybe beliefs you've picked up that sound good, but honestly haven't made a real difference for you.
The stuff that's just noise.
Yeah. And the idea is to consciously let one go, not out of negativity, but to reclaim that energy for what actually resonates and works.
Makes sense. Clearing out the clutter.
And then there's one more analogy near the end. Invent help for the soul. That paints quite a picture.
Invent help. Like those late-night TV ads for inventors.
Exactly. Where the pitch is all about believing in your dream invention, and you pay them to help patent it. But the real business model is often just collecting fees from hopeful inventors, whether the invention succeeds or not.
Okay, I see the parallel.
The article suggests some modern self-help can feel like that. It sells the aspiration, the belief you're making progress. An MLM for your identity, it calls it. You keep buying into the system, hoping for the big arrival.
Wow, MLM for your identity, that's sharp.
It connects to week 13's point. Focus, without clarity, is just well-marketed confusion. These systems can give you focus, sure, but is it focused on the right things? Is it leading somewhere real?
So all these different angles, the productization, skipping the beginning, the barn dust, end gaining, it all seems to circle back to one core idea.
Which is?
That phrase they use, you can't shortcut a becoming.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. Becoming is a process. It takes the time it takes. It involves the messy bits, the quiet work.
So thinking about this whole deep dive, the big takeaway really feels like shifting perspective. Away from the quick fix, the dramatic overhaul.
And towards understanding that real growth is often, well, slower, quieter, more about consistency than intensity.
Right. And for you listening, if your goal is that thorough knowledge, that real understanding, maybe recognizing the nature of growth itself is the most valuable thing. It helps filter out the noise.
Definitely. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to chew on, something sparked by the article's ending.
Come on.
Think about maybe one performative voice, a self-help guru, a specific productivity hack, some ideal you're chasing that you might be leaning on quite heavily.
Yeah, okay.
What might it look like to just set that aside for a moment and try to tune back into your own gut feeling, your own internal compass, to focus on the raw reality of where you actually are right now, not where the brochure says you should be.
Replacing the external script with your own internal reality, that's quite a shift.
It's about building from the inside out, right? Starting with what's real. Right here.
One steady step at a time, like painting that bridge. Thanks, this was a really insightful deep dive.
Yeah, good stuff to think about.